Welcome back to the NutriMedical Report, and one of the best analysts in the world in terms of trends, both economic, cultural, and otherwise, and warning us, sounding the bell, is Gerald Celente, who's, of course, broadcast all over the world in so many different networks. Used to be that they didn't believe, but now that these things are unfolding exactly as Gerald has stated, he's here to kind of tell us the marching orders of what we need to do to survive the coming revolution. And, of course, there's always opportunities in the midst of disaster, but it requires us to start looking at things completely differently. Welcome back, Gerald.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, Gerald, you've done a tremendous number of interviews. Is there anything new today that you think that people need to think about in terms of solution? Obviously, everything is unfolding exactly as you stated. The dollar will go, but it's going to go over time, probably a year or so, and it's going to go in stages that are going to be painful. But the whole idea is they're trying to create a whole new world economy based on this new green bubble, while they're stealing the assets of the world blind, the greatest heist of the planet Earth. This is a criminality of galactic proportions, and yet people act as if somehow the work that you're talking about is a theory when it's right in their face. It's amazing, isn't it?
Well, people, they buy into the word hope, and hope is probably the most negative word in the metaphysical dictionary. You don't hope to be a great pianist. You don't hope to be a great chef. You don't hope to be a great anything. You have to do the work to do it. And hope doesn't show up at your door with a package of, big ones. That you have to do the work. And people are following their leaders. And to me, it's just the most amazing thing to see adults look up to these people and think that they're going to lead them to salvation. And to me, it's very clear. It's kind of like when you were in high school and you had these people that you couldn't stand that wanted to be, always wanted to be the class president, or when you went to college, the head of the student government, and they've never stopped. And you couldn't stand them in high school, and now they're telling you what to do. So it's astounding that people look up to the likes of Pelosi's and Barney Franks and Shelby's and Dodd's and Pelosi's and Feinstein's and Boxers and Schumers. How about Larry Moe and Curley? These people are. I don't want to say with whom, but a top politician just yesterday. And he's kind of like a friend, and I want to be respectful. I don't want to call him a know-nothing on the radio. And we're talking about the Federal Reserve and what's going on, and he was clueless. He doesn't know the details. And then all these people are good about is to campaign and get jobs that they never have to get their fingernails dirty doing. So that we're in for a very serious downturn. The only reason this is being held up is that around the world, the governments have been shoveling in stimulus money, buyback programs, you name it, and once that, whether it's China, Korea, Australia, of course the United States, when the stimulus runs out, the hard times are going to hit back. And I want to make this clear, too. This is not a failure of capitalism, as everyone's saying. Capitalism's working fine. It has nothing at all to do with that. It has to do with fraud. It has to do with Wall Street scams. It has to do with these rip-offs and Madoffs. It has to do with these investment banks that are doing fraudulent things. It's corporate book cooking. It has nothing to do with capitalism.
Yeah.
Capitalism's working just fine. So the people that say it's not a self-correcting or self-regulating process, as George Soros said this past weekend, are wrong. It is self-regulating. If it was left alone to regulate, if the too big to fails were left to fail, it would be fine. If the crooks were caught and prosecuted like some loser that robs a 7-Eleven 3 times and is doing life, if they were treated like that, we wouldn't have these problems.
So the real issue is that there's no failure. What we have is the regulations have been changed by infiltrators into the government that got rid of things like Glass-Steagall, the normal protections to allow us to have a real constitutional republic where real capitalism functions from the small businessman right up. So the small businessman is not thought of being as cannon fodder for the takeover by big business buying in a fire sale, which is what's happening to the banks, et cetera. It's evil. And of course now there's going to be a flood of dollars coming into America to buy everything they can get up before the dollar goes down the toilet.
Yeah, that's right. That's going to be one of our top trends for 2010. Buy America. They're going to buy America on the cheap. And they're devaluing the dollar as we see it. They know what they're doing. They want to pay back the debt with cheap money, and they could care less about the rest of us as long as they're making all their money. Look, we've gone from the most the most egalitarian nation on earth to one where the gap between the rich and the poor is widest in the United States than any of the industrialized nations. This is criminal. I say it all the time. If the names on Wall Street were named Celente, Caruso, Mondavi, Puccini, Rossini, Bellini, Puccio, Abatelli, they'd call it the mafia, and they'd have a field day out there. Oh, boy, Hollywood would be going crazy. The mafia is robbing the country blind. But you're not allowed to call the white shoe boys crooks and criminals. Oh, no. They don't do pyramid scams or loan sharking, or they don't do Ponzi schemes. They do credit default swaps. They do special investment vehicles. They do auction rate securities. Oh, and they don't do loan sharking. No. When you're late on your loan on a credit card and they hit you with 30% interest rate, that's just called the cost of doing business. But boy, if an Italian ever did this stuff, boy, would it be big time headlines. It's hypocrisy. That's all it is. You're not allowed to call the white shoe boys crooks and criminals.
Exactly. Now, how fast is this going to evolve? Because it appears almost like you can almost hear the clicking of the notches as this is going to drop. Like, almost the next shoe is about to drop any moment now.
It's hard to tell because they come up with these schemes undreamed of. I mean, who would have thought we've gone from the great entrepreneurial empire of the world to one where too big to fails all of a sudden becomes saved? I mean, look, what happened with George Bush? This guy was so unpopular until 9/11 came, and then he was going to bring him back, dead or alive, and people rallied around this idiot emperor. And when they remember about weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda, this guy couldn't fight his way out of a paper bag. And then the whole nation rallied around them. The same thing with Obama. All we have to do is have a crisis, false flag or real. The sheeple will follow like they did with Bush.
Exactly. In fact, I think he's manufactured one by taking a non-pandemic, which should be level 4, and turning it into a state of national emergency, when the real things that they could